Here. What is up, everybody? It's Dr. Vibe here, host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe show, but that is not what I am doing tonight. Tonight, I am hosting another monthly conversation on men and masculinity, and want to just give a shout out to a number of people that are live and the people who are not live. Lee Rosen, program lead, Robert Leung, part of the programming team. We also have Michelle. We also have Terry, and I'm forgetting somebody else. I'm pretty sure. No, I'm not. That's it.
Steve?
Yeah, maybe.
And you, Dr. Vibe.
Well, me. Right? Once in a while, I'm here. Once in a while, I'm here. So last month, we had a great conversation with a group of Black men, and it was so well received that we thought we'd do part two. So our conversation topic tonight is what's going on in the hearts and minds of Black men. And the different thing this month is we got some non-Black people here. So some people want to find out what's going on in the hearts and minds of Black men tonight. But Robert, how you doing, my co-host? What is going on?
I'm doing great, Dr. Vibe. Looking forward to this. Just jumped off another call to be on this call, so I'm excited. You
kicked someone off?
I just let them go. I released them.
Okay. Well, you are so polite and so mannered. I appreciate
We'll start off that way.
Okay, let's go. So I know that some of the gentlemen who are in last month's conversation here tonight, Steve Anderson, Wayne Harris, Roland Lowe are here. We may get some others coming in. And this is a community conversation, but I definitely have some conversation topics that I want our Black men, our guests, our friends to chat about tonight. And also, if you want to add and get dialogue from them and get some more of their thought process, you are certainly more than happy to do this. So the first conversation topic I want to continue on with our guests, our friends tonight, do they have any thoughts about the George Floyd trial? It is going on right now. And Steve, why are you doing that? You're just giving me this body language saying, why am I going there? Well, you got to go there.
Yeah.
You got to go
you do.
there.
So, you do.
So what are their thoughts, Steve? I'll let you lead on that, and maybe Wayne and Roland, you can come on in.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it's the Chauvin trial.
Yes.
I'm going to put that out there, right? Because I remember, and I say that for a reason, right? It's because it's very easy to make this the George Floyd trial. Mm-hmm. It's easy to do that, but he's not the man on trial. But as I'm watching the proceedings, it seems like he is.
Yep.
It's a really interesting thing. So, when you don't have a real defense, then you try to create doubt, and you attack the credibility of the witnesses as a distraction. But I'm only hoping that the law is observed because, in that state, for second-degree murder, it doesn't have to be the sole cause of death. It just has to be a major contributor. And with that in mind, it seems like there's enough evidence being presented to show that this was a major contributor to the cause of this man's death. Man, but it doesn't look like a slam dunk. It's crazy. It baffles me. It baffles me. And I watched some trials. I watched the OJ trial. I watched, a lot of stuff that happened before, and just the way evidence is presented, and you can never tell what's going to happen when you have a jury. So even though I'm watching all this evidence and the way they're methodically creating this case so that they can bring this stuff in later, I can't rest. I cannot rest, man. I just can't rest because you don't know. You just don't know how a jury's gonna call it. And that's such a sad thing because it seems overwhelming. And the law seems to be on the side, but George's brother said it. This is the opportunity. You tell us to trust the system. This is the opportunity for the system to perform, and we'll see. We'll see. So that's what I'm sitting back watching it, and we'll see. We'll see.
Okay. Wayne, Roland.
I can honestly say that I have not been involved. I have seen enough American justice and read enough and seen enough and heard enough to not have any faith in the criminal justice system of the United States at all, especially when it comes to police, when I know they have immunity. So there's going to be a lot of noise and a lot of rancor, and when the dust settles, this guy's going to walk away maybe with a slap on the wrist, if that. So my expectations are that it's going to be more of the same. My question is, when that does happen, what is the recourse for Black people in the United States under a Joe Biden, Kamala Harris government? Now, I know they're federal and this is a state situation, and maybe even a municipal or city situation, so they don't have the purview and it's not their lane, but the optics of police immunity, that has to change in my lifetime. Otherwise, America will never be able to heal, in my opinion.
Okay. Roland.
I really don't have much to really add to the conversation. I mean, I'm in Montreal, Quebec. And fortunately, even up here, we have our issues ongoing right now. It's so you have to forgive me, but this is sort of like removed from me. I understand that within the U.S., it's a big event. It's just that just within my purview, it's not as crucial as other things I'm concentrating on right now. So you'll have to forgive me.
No,
on that part.
Well, that's where you're at right now. So no problem with that. I want to come back to Steve and back all three of you. Interesting enough, this afternoon I received a call from a lady, and she was saying, "Are you watching the trial? Are you watching the trial?" I said, "No, I'm not." And she goes, "Well, you better talk to some of your other fellow Black men," because she was concerned about the trauma Black men could get from watching this type of trial. Steve, you're nodding your head. Talk to me.
Yeah, well, you can't help but be traumatized when you're in a traumatic situation. But that's the state of America, North America, the world. It's, this is my take on it. Supremacy is a global illness, and it has been for a while. And there's so many different forms. Racial supremacy is only one form of supremacy. Financial, gender, age, education. There's so many ways that there's so many systems in place that suppress people. And in a supremacist system, you have to have an oppressed. You have to have an elite. You have to have an oppressed. So you can't. In North America, we have a system of supremacy. It goes all the way back to landowners and royals and everything else, where you have a ruling class and you have a class that's served. And the justice system is set up to keep the serving class in their place and the ruling class protected. And so as long as we have these systems in a system of supremacy, there's no such thing as a conversation of reconciliation. Doesn't work. So right now, white supremacy is the topic in the limelight, because, or I should say in the spotlight, because it's a global thing. We're recognizing it now. There are events that we can't ignore. And this is where we can have a conversation about systemic change. And, what my brother was saying here, who are in the States right now, what Wayne's saying about, this lack of trust for the judicial system. Well, why should we trust it? They haven't earned any trust, but the system is set up that way. It's not dysfunctional. It's functioning the way it's set up. If we want equity, we have to replace this system with a system of equity. but a supremacist system can never have equity in it, because by definition, you have to have someone who's supreme and someone who's oppressed. There's no other way around it. Whether that's oppression's financial or racial or whatever else it is, the system is set up that way. You're gonna have an elite and you're gonna have an oppressed. So that's the first thing I want to recognize is the system is functioning the way it's set up. We're not gonna find any justice inside this system. The only hope is to recognize that. And then what's an equitable system that we can use to replace it? Because this one, it's never gonna give us equity. It's not set up to give us equity. It wasn't designed for equity for everyone. It was designed for equity for the elite. So that's the thing. And you're seeing it happen now. And, you know, I mean, it's an easy conversation to say, flip all the races. If this was a white man on the ground and a black cop on top of him, and the man died, you know, would it be a slam dunk or not in the US, in North America? And whether it's a slam dunk or not, who knows? But I wouldn't have this sense of, wow, this justice is not going to be served. And until the verdict is actually announced, I have no confidence that no matter what evidence is produced, that there won't be some way that justice doesn't get served for this man. I mean, what I've seen so far, there's no way that this man didn't know what he was doing. Okay. There's no way he didn't know what he was doing.
I want to expand the conversation a bit with you three gentlemen. Have many Black men that you have spoken with or you come in communication with, have they given up on the system or having faith in the system? Wayne?
I can't speak for everyone.
No.
And I have a buddy of mine, grew up in Montreal, maybe for my American friends, 2 miles away from me. 2 miles. Yes. Stephen Lee, I got you. Rob, I got you. 2 miles away from me. And he moved to the US a number of years ago for work and moved to Atlanta. Now he looks more like Robert than he does like me, although both of his parents are Black, but both of them they look like Robert. So he goes to the States and he chooses where he's going to live. And there's Black Atlanta and there's white Atlanta. He chooses white Atlanta. And he chooses to associate with the power in the South. And he has become full Trump supporter over the last number of years. He drives a muscle car, motorcycle, fires guns at the ranges, goes to Trump rallies, the whole 9 yards. He's all in. I don't know if he is and he subscribes to 3 guys you should know: Larry Elder, Thomas Sowell, and Jordan Peterson. And the what is it called? Something University, Fraser.
Not sure.
Prager University. Anyway, he is all in. So he went to that side because I think it's a survival mechanism. If you live in a red state and you want to find work, the people who look like us may not be in position to help him. So he jumped the fence, being of leveraging his light privilege to go down that path. So, you know, your question is apropos, but it really, people are making decisions on every day whether they can transcend Blackness. O.J. Simpson said, "I'm not Black, I'm O.J." Right? If you watch Do the Right Thing in 1989 in the movie, the guy says Magic Johnson is not an N-word. He is magic because he has transcended, right? And there's some of us who feel we're transcended. 2 seconds on a story. We were in Buffalo, New York. We went to a Bills game. We're coming home. We tailgated. Everybody's hammered except for the designated driver. I'm in my car. The other guys in the car were coming home. One of the guys, who is the guy who set it all up, is running in between the cars as we're going out, because there's only kind of like all channeling to try to get back to the Canadian border. And as we're getting out of the stadium, he is running between the cars. And someone said to him, "Hey, get back in your car." He gives them an expletive, right? And he didn't know who he was talking to. It was a cop. Well, listen. His entire life, he was OJ, not Black, until that moment, that night in Buffalo. 4 years ago. And let me tell you, he cried like a baby because for the first time in his life, he experienced racism and had to go to the States, get a lawyer, pay for all these. Listen, there were 70,000 people rowdy, but he's 6'4", 260 pounds. My complexion. He got zero grace. And they put him in jail. They wrote him up. He had to come back from Canada to go back and serve trial. Listen, it's a football game where people drink. And he wasn't hurting anyone, but he was in danger because he was running between the cars. But he learned that night. He didn't transcend. And he's been a different man since. It shocks your whole system when that happens to you. Trust me.
Robert, you want to join the conversation? Anything you want to add at this moment? Take yourself off mute.
Sorry about that. I'll just say that, I haven't experienced that kind of racism, but I watched that video. I watched it a number of times yesterday, today, last night. I watched it over and over again. And it's hard not to feel the outrage and think that any human being could look at that and think anything else but what they were seeing was murder and a consistent effort to achieve that, deliberate by several men on camera from several different angles. And I looked at it over and over again in sadness and anger and disgust, and thought, well, how could this go any other way? But I have to agree with Steve and Wayne that there is no. I'm not sure this is a slam dunk, aside from the fact that it's on camera consistently with audio. There couldn't be more proof than that, but we've seen that fail before, and that's the part of me that I don't want to give up hope, but I agree with you. Who knows what will happen.
Wayne put something interesting in the comments if you're in the Zoom room here, and I think many of us are old enough to remember Rodney King.
Yeah.
Right. I think many of us remember that
exactly.
incident, right? So is this Rodney King? Well, there's been many Rodney King since, but this has been the most amplified since. More than happy if other people that are on the call, if they want to comment, please come on in. Steve, did you want to add? And then I'll go to Tom Mack.
Yeah, just on this subject here, losing faith in the system. It's only come to me this year. So I haven't lost faith in the system. And I don't know, Wayne, so maybe you can, speak with this. I don't know, but the system is functioning the way it's designed. The court system is functioning the way it was designed. The police are functioning the way it was designed, all the way back from chasing slaves, then formally getting formed. It's just a system that benefited the people that it benefited when it was designed, because this was slavery was a common thing, or human trade, before that, land ownership and having people in servitude on land, regardless of race. Like, the systems were designed to support the elite and to oppress the masses, all the systems. And now we're just in a place where we're like, well, no, the systems should support everyone, but the systems aren't designed that way. So it's not that I've lost faith in the system. I'm just recognizing the system is functioning as designed and it doesn't fit the people that it should be serving today. It's time to change the system the same way you have to change your hardware. I've got an iPad. I can't update the thing. I got it 2013. It's the first iPad.
Yep.
It won't go higher than 10 or whatever. I can't, I literally can't upgrade the system. The hardware won't take it. That's these systems.
Mm-hmm.
supremacy as a system, whether it's racial, financial, educational, gender, whatever it is outdated, it's antiquated. It doesn't serve society, because society is saying that we really do want something that looks like equity, even dysfunctional equity.
Well, I'm going to just interrupt you. I think I don't think it's a majority of this. Maybe it's a majority of society. We don't know, but I think there's still some faction of society that don't want it to change.
True, but it doesn't have to be a majority, because the major decisions aren't made by the majority anyway. True. It's made by the influencers, yeah. The people who can actually influence and make the change. That's where the real change happens. So I think there are enough people for the same changes that happened in South Africa. Apartheid wasn't ever going to go away. They didn't care what people thought. They would just say, who cares? We don't care what you think. Sanction us. We don't care. But something shifted where it benefited even the people who supported apartheid. It benefited for the system to change. And so that's the sort of systemic change I'm talking about. Not everybody will like it. And I'm not talking about getting rid of the elite. I'm talking about just having a system that supports more people, that's more up to date. And these systems were created thousands of years ago, way before race was even a thing. These systems have been in place. And so they just don't serve us now. And people are saying equity. Is that the system we really want? We just need a new system. This system doesn't work anymore. So so I haven't lost faith, and I'm just recognizing the system's functioning the way that it's designed to function. And if we want something different, we actually have to have systemic change, because trying to upgrade this system, this system's supremacy is never gonna upgrade equity. Reconciliation is never in the conversation inside of a supremacist system. Reconciliation, what? Our reconciliation is a distraction. And then we do some aesthetic changes, shut you up, and do business as usual or better, because we're smarter now. That's what happens in a supremacist system when you bring out reconciliation. So the system has to be equity or something like it. And we have to consciously change the system. And then if it's dysfunctional, if it's a system of equity, but only white men are human, which was a belief at one time, women and people of color aren't human, it's just dysfunctional. As soon as you recognize women are human, then you give them equity, because it's designed for equity. Or as soon as you recognize people of color are human, then if it's an equitable system, they can have equity. It was just dysfunctional at some point in time. But this system we have is not designed for equity. It's designed for elite and oppressed. And there's no way that it's ever going to have equity in it. It's a false conversation. So yeah, I haven't lost faith in the system. I'm just recognizing the system is functioning well, and it won't upgrade to what we're asking it to do ever. It's not designed that way.
Okay. Tom Mack, you have something you want to share. So take yourself off the mute and let's hear what you have to say.
Hey, when I heard about this meeting tonight, it was riveting for me because, and it's nice to meet you, Steve and Roland and Joe. I know the other clowns, so. I really wanted to be on this call because my family's integrated. And I got the photos of all my kids and grandkids right here. These two kids right here, they're brothers. See the difference? Mm. Neither do I. That's what we say. My cousins have been through a lot of stuff growing up. I hear it. My wife is Jewish. I have Jewish children, so I hear that. When Obama was first elected president, the whole world, as everybody knows, the whole world celebrated. And when somebody would use the N-word or talk about a Jew, I would just sit back and just let it go. And the next day, but when they said it in front of my kids, I really had to hold my thing. The next day I would see that person. I said, by the way, my son's Jewish, or my grandson's Black. And, oh, I'm so sorry. I said, no, you're not. And it's okay. I know where you stand and I can respect that. That's when Obama was president. What a shift. What a shift south. I mean, and I don't have any faith in the system in Minneapolis. I don't think it should be televised, as riveting as it was, because I've watched some of it. And, you know, the defense, they got to create doubt in one person. And the Rodney King video, if you remember the first time, they were found not guilty. I mean, this guy's getting clubbed to death. He's found not guilty.
Yeah.
And then the civil suits and all that came, and then they got, you know, and if you remember the OJ, you know, we were big OJ fans. We all rejoiced when OJ was found not guilty, but he killed those two, and everybody knows it. And it's just amazing, you know, that defense team is not stupid, and they're gonna come after it. You know, to see some of the trial, it's heartbreaking. It's heartwarming that other people were trying to help. But in the end, I think being on TV is going to do that case in. I think America is on trial. That's and if I'm not mistaken, this police officer is only on trial for manslaughter. He's not on trial for murder.
No, he's second and third degree murder, and
okay,
second and third degree murder.
I thought there was some manslaughter charges in there too on one of the other cops. Okay,
he's got three.
So I don't have much faith in our system right now, but I think it's a stage. I think America's on trial right now. This country is going to go one way or the other in a very quick period of time after this trial is over. And I just, I see good coming out of it. I see bad coming out of it. I just don't know what the future holds for my side of the family. You know, even my son, who's Jewish, he just committed to Manhattan College as an athlete. He can't even tell anybody he's Jewish. You know, he's got a target on his back. So, you know, it's
in Manhattan?
Like, I'm sorry?
A Jewish person has a target on the back in Manhattan?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Help me understand that, brother, because I've been to Manhattan.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. It's there. It's there.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Robert lived in the city. He could speak for that.
I think there's some of that there. I do.
Oh, yeah.
Well, we know the law firms back in the day didn't allow for Jewish lawyers to practice. They would not hire them regardless of their marks. We know the universities wouldn't allow them into the medical schools and into the law schools. So we understand that, which is why there's Mount Sinai and all the hospitals, because they were metering the number of Jews that were allowed to get into medicine. So the Jews decided to pivot into pharmacy, which is why you'll see, especially in Canada, those who couldn't become doctors became pharmacists and dentists, not by choice. It's kind of by, you know, Bruce Lee said, flow like water. So they stopped you getting into McGill in medicine, flow like water into pharmacy and into dentistry, and come back to medicine. And that's why it prevails today. Those of you who are on the call who are Jewish can correct me if I'm incorrect, but that's the story I was told by the Jewish friends I have here in Toronto and in Montreal.
I have many, many friends in Toronto, and my wife's from New York, so it's there. I mean, now it's there. It's very prevalent right now, just like, you know, racism towards Asian Americans right now. Mm-hmm. It's the same thing. So I remember when we did the college visit. Manhattan is a Catholic school, which is not a big deal anymore. And my son's in the chapel. He goes, "Do I have to tell him I'm Jewish?" And I said, "No, you don't have to say a word, man." Yeah. But what's been going on is very heartbreaking. I think we've gone backwards in many ways. We got a long way to go to move forward again. I just don't have faith in this trial, and I don't think it should be on TV. I don't want it to be the Marcia Clark, Chris Darden show. Yeah, I really don't. When Marcia Clark looked like a dog, and then she got all ponied up, she got all dressed up, right? It was a show. It was a show. And Johnny Cochran lives right here until he passed away a few years ago.
Yeah,
it was. We don't need a show. We need a trial, and we need a trial for our country. This is much bigger than George Floyd.
Well, George Floyd happened on. Go ahead, Vibe.
No, go ahead, Wayne. Go ahead.
George
please.
Floyd's happened under Trump because there was a mood and an atmosphere that the behavior was acceptable again. So Make America Great Again was bring back overt racism again. Because America was and Canada, don't forget my homeland.
No, can't
America
forget
and Canada
here.
are very comfortable with covert racism, right? I'm not going to promote you, but you won't know it's because of your race or your religion. It'll just be, I won't promote you. And that's covert and the microaggressions. So this is what we're used to, right? But when people start lynching, this is a lynching, what they did to George Floyd.
Exactly.
It's a lynching.
That's exactly
When people
right.
start lynching on camera with impunity, it lets me know that the next time you see me in the United States is because someone paid me to go. Because for me to take my money and willingly go into a nation that has open season on people. I'm 6'2", chocolate through and through. 6'2", 215 pounds. I fit the description. I'm a threat. Not
Same
only
here.
am I darker skinned, I'm loud, as you have noticed. When I bring that gravitas to the table, there are a lot of people who are threatened by it, just because I'm not keeping the place that they have for me. Because if I want to stay in that place, I'll still be getting paid by the hour and punching in. But I don't do that anymore because I've transcended economically and socioeconomically, and I've designed my life to be as fruitful as I want to make it within the constraints of what society has given me. And I'm not going to tell my son and daughter, who are both going to, my daughter's in university, my son just finished. There are no governors on them. If there's a governor, it's going to be me putting words on them to make them play smaller than they need to play. But I'm well aware that there's no one that looks like me in the upper echelons of the places where both of them will work. I understand that.
Well,
Now,
my son,
what?
my son lives 2 hours north of Edmonton in Alberta, and that's almost like the southeastern part of the United States. That is Trump country, and it's bad up there too.
Was he playing ball up there?
No.
Was he playing basketball up there?
No.
No. No.
What's 2 hours? What's the name of the city?
Camrose.
Yeah, I know it.
Yeah, and that's total.
Redneckville.
That don't come up my way town. It's like the deep south in Canada. So it's all over.
Anyone else wanting to add at this time? Any comments or just listening intently? Okay. So I want to flip it a bit because time is going fairly fast. I want to ask our gentleman here, 3 words I'm hearing every half hour in the world these days, especially in North America: diversity and inclusion.
Equity and inclusion.
Well, whatever. Diversity, equity. I hear that when you hear those terms, Steve and Wayne and Roland, do you think it's taken seriously? Do you have hope in that system? Because I know you've had various experiences in that world. Who would like to start on that?
I'll let somebody else go.
Let Roland. Yeah, Roland wants to chat. Good.
Diversity and inclusion, I have no hope in that system.
Wow.
I would actually, I in a sense wash my hands of it. It's everywhere. And personally, I see no need for it. Now, I see it as something that is being forcefully pushed into places where, frankly, I don't see any need of it. Now, in a small microcosm, I'm gonna throw out an example like Hollywood. Just recently, we had, you may have seen it, the Jack Snyder cut of Justice League. For some people, it may not mean anything. It's just comic books. That's fine. Warner Brothers recently announced that they're going to be remaking Superman. The BBC, for the past couple of years, has totally.
Go ahead, Roland. No, go ahead. You're good. Open up your mic.
Okay. The BBC has totally rejigged a lot of their shows. They're saying that, okay, any show that is historical, that talks about ancient Greece, ancient Rome, ancient France, the Gauls, the Germans, the Vikings, make sure that there's at least 2 or 3 Black people in it. Superman, he's going to be Black now. What I'm seeing is there's no creation anymore. There's no originality anymore. It's, you know what, we got to take something that for all of your life, and we're going to just change it because we say so. Not because that there is a purpose for it. We're just going to change it. You're going to give you a Black Superman. You're going to like a Black Superman, and so on and so forth. We're going to put in these numbers and these quotas. We're going to put out a show. We're going to make sure that there's a Black person, a gay person, a transsexual person. We're going to make sure that that's in there, whether it's reflective of the population or not. We're just going to put it in. My question is, why? Why these changes? Why these changes all of a sudden? I mean, we grew up back in, or my time is really the 80s, the 90s. I remember, the Bill Cosby Show, Claire Huxtable. I mean, it was a show that everybody, Thursday night, everybody just gravitated around. We didn't, if you introduce a new character, it was written in, it was included in for a purpose, and it added to the story, it added to the history, it added to the universe of what was there. Not, okay, we're just going to throw it in. How's that person, help? Just a check on a piece of paper. That's my thoughts on it. Yeah.
No problem. Thank you for the share. Wayne, Steve? Go ahead, Steve.
Go ahead, Steve.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm really trying to relate with what you're saying there, Roland, and anything can be misused, taken advantage of, whether it's religion, anything that's meant to help people can be misused, and it has been historically. Human beings, we're great at that. But diversity, inclusion, and equity, I think the concepts are necessary. How they get used, that's where there has value or it doesn't have value. And what this conversation is reminding me of, 2 things. One is white supremacy, for example. There will not be Black people who, solve. First of all, white supremacy is not a Black conversation. White supremacy is a white conversation. It's a conversation for white people to have with white people. Do we want to keep perpetuating these systems of white supremacy? As a Black man, I could have the conversation of the effects of white supremacy on me and people who look like me and my family. That's my conversation, the impact. But white supremacy is going to be, the system of white supremacy will be changed when white people get together and say, we realize we have a privilege, we realize we have an advantage, and we don't want the world to be this way. It was designed in a time where that served the people who had the power, and we choose not to perpetuate this. And I've had white people have this conversation with me where I don't choose to live in a world where power is misused like this, and I'm the one who has the power. And I heard someone say today, a white woman said to me today, that every white person is a recovering racist. And if they don't recognize that, I'd never heard that before. But if they don't take on these sort of attitudes, it's the same like me being a male. I know I've traveled around the world. I know that I have a privilege being a male. I have a privilege being born in America, even just with the attitude that I have, the belief that I can be what I want to be. That whole story we were sold as children. You can be president of the United States. I believed that. I didn't really believe it, but I believed it. Cried like a baby when I realized it was actually true. I could have been president. He believed it. It was true. I'm an Olympic gold medal coach. That doesn't make any sense. Beach volleyball, that really doesn't make any sense. So that comes from me being American and thinking to dare to believe that I could do that. I have this privilege compared to some people around the world who would never believe that they have an opportunity to do that because of where they're born and the way they're treated. That's a privilege. As a male, I just found out a few years ago, I'm not going to give the source, but I was told by a woman that every time she walks down the street, especially at night, she's fearing. And I saw her have this conversation with another woman, and they just said it's so matter of fact, like, as a man, I don't experience that. I'm privileged as a man to take safety for granted. Whereas a woman, every time she's walking down the street, she's fearing for her safety because of men. And that's just a common thing that women just recognize. I'm privileged. Then there's areas I don't have privilege, like the color of my skin in North America. There's certain privileges I don't enjoy. And people will say things like Title IX and all this sort of stuff is too much. It flips the, well, there's just some things that will not correct themselves. And so if that's the right way to do it or the wrong way to do it, I don't know. But there has to be a correction, an overcorrection, because there is no system of equity. Equity, the system is supremacy. Equity is a conversation to distract. There is no equity. You don't talk about equity in a supremacist system. If we want equity, we have to recognize the system is supremacy. The people who operate and perpetuate the system have to say, we choose not to exercise this privilege because I just don't want that. And we'll install another system that has equity. It's based on equity. That's just the way it's going to be. So it can't be and I'm the type of person who I've built a life for myself, traveled around the world, and I don't suffer like a lot of people suffer. I'm a very privileged man just in life, period. I'm very grateful and blessed. And I experience it, like Wayne said. I know I'm Black. I don't have to guess at it. It's not an equitable system in play.
In lieu of time, I'm going to stop you right there. Wayne, I'm going to ask a favor. Ted would like to speak and he hasn't spoke yet. Would you mind going? No problem. Ted, welcome and please share.
Yeah. Yes, good evening, man. Good evening, man. Sorry that I came on late and I got the vibe of what you guys are trying to say here. And, all of you guys have some good point of views. But the only thing I wanted to say is it's hard for people who are in a white system to collectively agree with change because they're going to be fighting against what's been a beneficial aspect for them. There's only a few white people, I believe, that will step up and say, yes, this has to change. The problem is, though, we have a lot more of them who does not want to change because they benefit from it. This diversity, inclusion stuff is a quota to keep your mouth shut, I feel personally. I feel what we're doing right now is positive. We have to talk amongst ourselves. We have to build for ourselves. They're not going to give it to you. I'm sorry. You're fighting a massive. These are hundreds and hundreds of years we're talking about here. So my point is right now, we have to galvanize ourselves with like-minded people and build from there, you know, and build an economic power, build for ourselves, because they're not going to give it to you. That's all I want to say. Because I agree with a lot of you guys are saying right now. I just want to make that point that if someone is benefiting from the system, majority of them is going to keep on trying to benefit from the system or take a blind eye, which is like agreeing what's going on because they benefit from it. And that's just where I look at it. So, you know, I've been very blessed to be self-employed for the last 18 years. So a lot of times I can maneuver around these things on my own. But it does not mean I don't see it. It does not mean I'm affected by it sometimes when I'm in the business I'm doing, that I have to come with this more articulate matter of getting my point across to make things happen, much more than my other white counterpart. So I recognize that we have to build for ourselves, galvanize with like-minded people, white, black, brown, whatever it is, and just work towards a better future for our offsprings, for our siblings, so they can hopefully push it further. And I do agree with the gentleman earlier. It's like we took a couple of steps backwards now under this make America great again. We took some steps back because now they feel brave enough to show their chests and say the things that was in their mind, do the things that was in their mind. So we did definitely took some steps back, but then again, it's kind of an eye-opener to know that, okay, we're not out of this yet. We're not out of this yet. And we have to make sure we galvanize, stay vigilant, call it out like it is. Don't fight. I don't believe in causing a lot of uproar. Like Wayne said, the marching thing is not helping. You know, because we march and they bring out their flipping troops. They march. What is it? 6 policemen trying to stop them from getting in the White House? What more examples do we need?
Okay.
So that's all I want to say.
Thanks for the share. Wayne?
Yeah, listen, there's a bunch of guys on here who haven't said a word. Not calling anybody out, but I'm calling people out because we're all family here. So Mark Roden and Joe Ledman and Lee Rosen, I want to hear what's up.
Hey,
tell
how's it
me,
going?
fantastic, man. Talk to me. What are you feeling?
It's good to be here. It's good to be part of this conversation. You know, just to hear what you experience. You know, it is pretty foreign to me. I grew up in Boston and I live in Vermont.
Yeah.
You know, Vermont's pretty darn white, and you know, it's a different world. And you know, somebody mentioned Rodney King earlier, and I lived in LA for that. And I was coming home from work in downtown LA, and I saw all the fires, and that shit was real. You know, like that was some real anger, and you know, I completely get it. You know, because you fast forward to the Capitol, and those were my people. You know, it's just like, so wait a minute. Some of those people like were police officers. Some of them were taking selfies with, and then there was Confederate flags. And
well, some of them wanted to hang the vice president of the United States.
Yeah, it's just really scary, you know, and talk about just not belonging. You know, I did not feel like I belonged with any of those people, you know, who were doing that, you know, marching on the Capitol and trying to cause harm to people and what they stood for, you know. And you know, I really felt like somebody very different. Like I am on the liberal side. I'm in Vermont. I'm a Democrat. You know, one of my really Republican friends, when I was helping to buy a house during the last election, when Hillary Clinton was running, used to call me Hillary, just, you know, just to be a ball buster, you know, but a big Trump fan, you know. And boy, I mean, you really feel like what it's like and what the differences are. Like the fact that so many people could just get into the Congress, to get into that building. And then, you know, they compare it to other marches, you know, the Black Lives Matter marches, and what happens then. And it's just horrible. It's just horrible, you know, that can happen. And it's almost like, it almost feels like collusion at a high level, you know, to me. So it's good to be on this call. You know, like I was wondering if I was going to be the only white guy on here, but then I see my boy Tom Max here and Big Rose. But
we got your back, man. You're okay.
Yeah.
We got your back.
Thank
We got
you.
your back.
Listen, I'm a man. I love doing this stuff. I love having great talks. I love listening, and there's been some really powerful stuff. So thank you.
Good. Joel?
Yeah. So couple things. One is, I mean, there is understandable, whether it's skepticism or lack of the system, but from my perspective, each of these are opportunities to dialogue about what's going on and how things can be changed. And even the diversity and inclusion area, you know, a lot of the problem is that people don't get to know each other in other races, religions, and whenever there's an opportunity to talk about those things or meet people that are different from ourselves, I think the only thing we can do is look at each of these situations and make the best of them. So I heard also what Steve was saying in terms of a different system, but there are causes for the system not working well, like not being able to get rid of bad cops and not being able to hold people accountable. So yeah, I appreciate the conversation and hope that with each of these situations that occur, that there are opportunities for change. And frankly, with all of the people engaged at this moment, it feels like it feels like a different process. There are more people involved and engaged and aware. And so I'm hopeful that things will change.
Okay. We are quickly coming to the top of the hour. So if anyone has any closing comments, I know now I know you like to be the closer, so go ahead.
Bring in the closer. That's what they say. Cookies are for closers.
There you go.
Listen, happy Passover to my Jewish brethren here. Hope you had a great, Shabbat Shalom and all that good stuff there. You know, I'm loving what the Jews have done over their time of persecution across multiple continents, across multiple centuries, and what you've taught us, but we are refusing to learn, is that you have to have a unity of thought on something, not on everything. Not all Jews believe the same thing. There are Republican Jews, there are Democrat Jews, but all Jews have one prime directive, which is make sure that Judaism makes it into the next generation. You may not agree on how to do that, but you all agree that Israel should be there and Judaism should persist into multiple generations. If I'm getting that wrong, stop me now, because I'm out of my lane. But if I'm waiting to hear, am I wrong?
You are not wrong.
Right.
Okay, so just what we need. Go ahead.
Passover is probably one of the most special holidays I have as a man, because for me, it's a very spiritual. It's not so much religious. You know, Passover is freedom from slavery. And never forget, never again be a slave to anything or anyone. Right. And my final sentence of the night is, this conversation needs to extend, because we didn't even talk about racism was just legally adopted in the state of Georgia with their voting suppression law.
Yeah, that's a whole other conversation.
We now have legalized racism in Georgia.
Correct. So what I want to say to respond to that, Tom, is this: you have Passover because it was the end of slavery. slavery still exists in the United States. So the blacks in America have not had their Passover because it's still existing.
Exists.
Yeah. This is the key difference. And here's what I know. Throughout the history of the NAACP, the Urban League, and the other organizations, Jews and blacks shoulder to shoulder to make sure that the civil rights movement moved through and everybody benefited. The difference between our two cultures is that you understood what you wanted from civil rights and what you were going to do to weaponize it to protect yourself as well as expand into other areas. That you were being blocked. We're still being blocked. So I'm 54. 55 years ago, they passed the Civil Rights Movement. You understand? 56 years ago, they passed the Voting Rights Act. You understand? It's just almost my lifetime. Lee's in your lifetime. Tom's in your lifetime. So we have work to do. What we're looking for are allies. And I implore you that when you're at the country club, when you're at the golf course, when you're at the bowling alley, when you're anywhere we're not, and someone says some stupid bullshit, I need you to understand the context of the situation. Don't put yourself in harm's way. But I need you, when you're in those rooms where we're not, to say something.
Trust me.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's all rhetoric.
Yeah.
You hear what I'm saying?
It is
because we're not going to get into those rooms.
No.
And you're there.
Yeah.
Because you know what? You can tell that I'm black at 100 yards, but I can't tell Mark is Jewish or whatever else he might be at 100 yards. So you can get in there. Covert ops. I need you to go behind those walls. When you hear the bullshit, say, listen, that doesn't fly, and this is why.
You don't see any black in my skin, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you two talk.
That's the change. It's a collective effort. It's a collective economy is what Jewish people do really well that we could do. But here's something I'd like to say just to close out as well. So,
sure, Steve.
Thank you, Dr. Byron. So this is not an issue if we look at it objectively. If I'm an executive in an organization, I'm expected legally and otherwise to manage myself and manage my power. I can't just walk up to anyone in my organization and approach them in a way that's, sexually offensive or whatever. I can't take money and embezzle money. I can't just violate someone's human, smack them in the face or whatever. In a position of power and leadership, I'm expected to conduct myself in a certain manner. That's just the way it is. But for some reason, this isn't seen in the same way. There were laws that were created in a time to oppress a specific people, whether it's race, religion, gender, sexual, whatever it was. And we're still operating under those systems instead of holding people accountable who have power. And you go all around the world. It's not just white people. You go to Asia, it's Asia against Asian. You go to Africa, it's black against black. It's on all levels, supremacy in all levels, whether it's economic, race, gender, whatever. That's the problem. We're just not holding ourselves responsible, but we already have models for it. This is not something new. I don't know why we're not making the relationship between the two. If you hold power, you should use it in a responsible way, and you should be held accountable for that. And if you want to say that you're not holding power and treat it differently, then I'm not going to use the word I want to use. It's just crap. It's crap. So just hold no double standard. If you're a person in a position of power and leverage, you should be held account to use it responsibly. You wouldn't adult to a child, you wouldn't accept it. We just wouldn't accept it. But for some reason, here when it deals with race, sometimes with whatever, we accept it. Why?
Because there's money involved, Steve. Money. Follow the money. So listen, Spider-Man said...
And consequences at times when you speak up. And consequences. Can you live with those consequences, right or wrong?
Many people could. A lot of people during Jim Crow felt bad about how blacks were being treated, but they didn't change it because they were benefiting from it. You understand?
That's why we got to have the right conversation. That's why we got to have the right conversation.
Same with Reconstruction.
Let's not have these fake conversations. Have the right conversation.
So Maya Angelou said, if you know better, do better. Maya Angelou.
That's right.
You know who also said it? Stan Lee, Spider-Man. With great power comes great responsibility. It's the same thing. Everybody here on these squares who has power in their sphere. I don't care if it's just your family. It might be their church, their synagogue, their work, their community center, whatever. When you're on the mic, do and say the right thing. That to me is victory on an individual basis. Take personal responsibility. Don't look to the Democrats or the Republicans to solve it. Don't look for federal, state, or local to solve it. You solve it with you making decisions. Mark, when you see a young brother and he put himself together and he's respectful and you have a choice to hire him and he's not the best candidate, but you know he's coachable, give him a shot. Hey, that's how I got to where I am. Somebody who did not look like me gave me a shot. All we're asking for is a shot. So diversity, equity, and inclusion is a mandated shot. And people are saying that shouldn't be the case. That's not fair. The best person is not going to get hired. Well, here's what I know. If 3.5% of the Canadian population looks like me, they're saying now they're going to mandate 3.5% of the executive suite to be black. And they said we couldn't find them. Everybody's a unicorn. Wayne, you're a unicorn. Steve, you're a unicorn. Vibe, you're a unicorn. It's BS. Many of us have paper and talent and can hold our own at the largest corporations. But you know what? It's uncomfortable to try to bridge a gap with someone who doesn't look like you, sound like you, and come from your background. It's not in your comfort zone, but nothing happens in your comfort zone. Everything happens just outside it, the fringe of fear. And if you want America to grow, it's not one piece of the pie that we're trying to take your piece. Let us in, or we're going to break in, Capitol Hill assault style, and we're going to make the pie bigger for everybody. Mark, you'll get more. Joe, you'll get more. Michelle, you'll get more. Tom and Lee, you'll get more. Why? Because we bring synergy. 1 + 1 is not 2. 1 + 1 is 3. Because we make the pie bigger for everyone when we participate. What was the NFL before black players? Garbage. What was the NBA before black players? Garbage. What was baseball before black players? Garbage. What was golf before Tiger? Garbage. When we come, we bring it and we take it to the next level. No disrespect to Arnold Palmer, who I love, and Jack Nicholson, all those guys. But
and Lee Elder, and Lee Elder,
all those guys. But you know what?
I gotta
when blacks get in, the game gets changed for the better.
Just for the record,
all things equal.
All right.
For the record, Wayne.
Tom Mack, last word.
For the record, Wayne, I married into Judaism. I raised my children Jewish. You kind of giggled when I said, "Do you see any blackness in me?" And you giggled. I got to tell you about. I'm Irish, Polish, and black. And
nice.
I tried to deny it for a long time, but I didn't understand it. But I want to end it. I want it to be a beginning of a thing because I had a young black man that we're competitors, and we actually got to be fairly friendly. And we're working on a bigger state. And I said, if I give this man an estimate and you give this man an estimate, who's going to get the job? He goes, of course, it's going to be me because I'm the white boy, right? To help him get through that, I sent him to a seminar to bust through that because he's going to have to work 3 times as hard as me to get that job. And he can do it. And he has to fight. White people have to fight, but he has to fight too, and we will pull them up. That's always been it's in my core. Okay. We will pull you up with us.
All right. On that note, I'm going to end the conversation. I would like to thank everybody who was here tonight, especially our special guests, special friends, Ted, Wayne, and Steve. Thank you so much. And Roland. like to say thank you so much for being here tonight. And yes, the conversation will continue. I thought we'd only do a 2-part, but I have a feeling we're going to be doing this. Someone's putting their hand up. 5. get it going. But certainly, I'd like to say thank everyone who watched this live or on the replay. Much appreciated, and great conversation. As always, I want to thank the Men of Masculinity team, which is Robert, Michelle, Terry, who's not with us tonight, and Lee especially. Thank you so much for a great conversation. And yeah, thanks everybody. If you want to catch up more, just go to the website, menofmasculinity.com, and go to our Facebook page. And I say the most important thing I can say right now, everyone, remember to give yourselves grace. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.